The fortune was promised, but it won't be given to just anyone. Everybody wants the promise, but almost no one can handle the process. You hear about kings, heirs, men blessed with fortunes and lands, but you ignore what all of them had in common. A level of faith that wasn't emotional, it was strategic. It wasn't faith based on feelings. It was faith that passed through the desert, through silence, through loss, and still remained unshaken. Today I'm going to show you the map. This isn't just another video about positive thinking or daily affirmations. I'm going to show you the 7 levels of faith you need to ascend before you are ready to receive the promised fortune. But it one to be released to the immature. If your faith is still the type that waits for results without sacrifice, prays without renunciation, or believes in blessings without purpose, you're stuck on the wrong level. The fortune was promised, but it will only be delivered to those who climb the 7 steps of faith that govern, not just wait. This is not a list to memorize, it's a mirror. You'll see yourself here. You'll identify where your faith stopped, and if you're honest, you'll realize why the promise hasn't arrived yet. It's not because God forgot, it's because you stopped climbing. The 7 levels of faith that unlock the promised fortune. Level 1, faith for survival. Hebrews 11:6. Without faith it is impossible to please God. This is the starting point, the lowest level, but the most common. Survival faith. Here you believe because you have no other choice. You pray because you're in chaos. You seek because the ground has fallen out beneath you. It's not strategic faith. It's desperate faith. And yes, it's valid. God answers this kind of faith, but He doesn't build His kingdom with it. It's the faith of the cry, the faith of Lord, save me. The faith of, if you get me out of this, I'll change. It's the faith of Peter sinking in the water. The faith of the woman with the issue of blood, touching his cloak as a last resort. The faith of the thief on the cross, asking for mercy in his final moments. Again, God responds, but this faith doesn't prepare you for government, it prepares you for relief. It's the faith of the child who cries for their mother in the dark. They are comforted, but they're not ready for responsibility. And the problem? Most people live in this cycle forever. They only seek God when everything falls apart. They only fast when the contract isn't signed. They only believe when the pain is real. They only pray when despair enters. This faith is the fire alarm. It's never the foundation of a building. As long as you remain in this level, God will deliver you, but He won't promote you, because the fortune promised requires structure, and here you're still in urgency mode. This level is legitimate as a starting point, but if you want to inherit what's promised, you need to move up. Get out of survival faith and move into faith with direction. The fortune promised is not a reward for those who cry. It's a responsibility given to those who grow, and growing requires stepping up. Level 2, faith of blind obedience. Genesis 12:1. Leave your country, your people, and go to the land I will show you. This is the level that separates those who cry from those who walk. The faith of blind obedience is not irrational. It is superior to logic. It says yes before knowing where. It takes steps while there's still no light ahead. Genesis 12:1. Leave your land, your family, and go to the land I will show you. Abraham hears a command, without a map, without a visible destination, without guarantees. But he goes. This is when you stop negotiating with God. You stop asking for explanations. You stop conditioning your faith to understanding, and you start obeying. Even without seeing, even without understanding, even without knowing how it will all work out. You enter the realm of authority without guarantees. God speaks once, and that's enough for you. And here's the secret. Provision only appears after the step, not before, not in the plan, but in the movement. Most people stay paralyzed, waiting for clarity. But in the kingdom, clarity comes after obedience, not before. This is where you stop needing to feel strong, and you start being strong. Your prayer changes tone. Your mind no longer wavers. Your mouth speaks with responsibility. Your routine aligns with what you believe, even if the results haven't come yet. Level 3, faith of radical renunciation. Luke 18:22. Sell everything you have and give to the poor. This is the most painful level, and also the most decisive. The faith of renunciation. It's no longer just about obeying. Now you need to give up not what's left over, but what is precious, what you love, what you don't want to let go of. Luke 18:22, sell everything you have and give to the poor. Jesus didn't ask for charity, he asked for the center. He tested the heart, and the rich young ruler failed. The faith of renunciation is the faith that wounds the ego. It shows you that what you own might actually be owning you. You say you want the promised fortune, but you won't let go of comfort. You won't give up vanity. You won't abandon pride. You won't strip away your image. And all the while, God watches, not because he wants what you have, but because he needs to ensure that what's to come that won't destroy you. This faith demands detachment. And more, it demands maturity to give up before you see replacement. You give without knowing if it'll come back. You let go with no guarantees of replenishment. You renounce simply because you know that the voice commanded you to let go. It's not loss, it's elevation. Abraham climbs the mountain with Isaac, his son, his promise, his joy. And even without understanding, he raises the knife. The renunciation is real. The altar is built. And only there does God intervene, because only when the offering is genuine, the promotion is released. Are you willing? Are you ready to let go of what you love, if that's what's blocking you? Because the promised fortune will never be released to closed hands. It comes to those who prove that the source is more valuable than the resource. That purpose is more important than comfort. That obedience is more valuable than possession. If you want to receive something eternal, you need to show that you can let go of what is temporary. Level 4. Faith that withstands silence. Job 13:15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. This is where many retreat, because until this point there was response. There was direction. There was a sense of presence. But at this stage, God goes silent. You pray, and the silence echoes. You fast, and nothing changes. You move, and it seems like no one sees you. And what do you do when the heavens seem to be on mute? This is the test of depth, because now your faith stops being reactive and becomes conviction. Job 13:15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. It's not a poetic phrase. It's the cry of someone who lost everything and still hasn't lost their axis. At this level, you discover if your faith is dependent on emotions or if it is rooted in identity. Because it's easy to believe when everything is flowing. It's easy to declare victory when doors open, but difficult to keep believing in the dark. But here lies the secret. God's silence is often the waiting room for the next level. It's when your character is purified, your ambition is dealt with, your motivation is filtered. You begin to pray less for answers and more for alignment, less for miracles, more for wisdom. It is in this desert that you realize you don't need more signs. You need more roots. And when the silence is endured, maturity blooms. Spiritual sensitivity sharpens. And when heaven finally speaks, it will find you ready to hear from a different place. Those who can't endure the silence will always return to the noise of comfort. But those who remain become fit to carry words that change destinies. The fortune promised is not only in what God says, it's in the solidity you build while he says nothing. Level 5. Faith of inner government. Romans 4:20. He did not waver through unbelief, but was strengthened in faith, giving glory to God. This level is the game changer. It's where you stop being a slave to instability and become a master of consistency. Here, faith no longer needs confirmation from the outside. It sustains itself. Now you govern what once governed you. Doubt, hurry, fear, the need for approval, the desire to control everything. Romans 4:20. He did not waver through unbelief, but was strengthened in faith, giving glory to God. Note, Abraham didn't wait for the promise to come true to strengthen himself. He strengthened himself while nothing happened. At this level, you no longer need to feel strong. You are strong. Your prayer shifts. Your mind no longer wavers. Your mouth speaks with responsibility. Your routine aligns with what you believe, even if the results haven't come yet. You become unshakable on the inside, and that's why God starts to trust you on the outside. Because fortune in the kingdom isn't just about quantity, It's about the ability to sustain the weight without being corrupted. Many people have the talent to receive wealth. Few have the maturity to not be destroyed by it. At this level, faith becomes structure. You begin to say no with clarity. Make decisions based on the future, not on the emotions of the now. Not negotiate principles for performance, and maintain the course even when it takes time. You want fortune? Then you need to prove it won't own you. You want power? Then prove you govern yourself. If you're still a slave to your emotions, God won't promote you to the financial level. You become unshakable on the inside, and that's why God starts to trust you on the outside. Because wealth in the kingdom isn't just about quantity, it's about the ability to sustain the weight without being corrupted. Many people have the talent to receive wealth. Few have the maturity to not be destroyed by it. At level 5, faith becomes structure. You begin saying no with clarity, making decisions based on the future, not on the emotions of the present, not negotiating principles for performance, and maintaining the course. And even when it takes time, you want fortune? Then you need to prove it won't own you. You want power? Then prove you govern yourself. If you are still a slave to your emotions, God won't promote you to the financial level. Level 6, faith of multiplication. 2, Kings 4. The widow multiplies the oil under prophetic instruction. Here, you stop asking for more and start doing more with what you already have. Faith for multiplication is about understanding the law of seed. You don't wait for abundance to arrive. You make what you have grow. The widow with a tiny jar of oil is told to gather vessels. She wasn't given more oil. She was told to make what little she had multiply. God doesn't multiply vanity. He multiplies intention. He multiplies purpose. He multiplies obedience. At this level, faith is entrepreneurial, it's creative, it's responsible, it's active. You plant, water, organize, separate, invest, reinvest. You learn that multiplication isn't magic. It's mastery over the little. The fortune promised isn't a prize. It's a consequence of being faithful in the invisible. If you despise the small, you'll never be trusted with the great. But if you activate the oil, the heaven will activate the vessels. Level 7. Faith of legacy and transference. Deuteronomy 8:18. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, to confirm His covenant. Here faith reaches its final form. It moves from individual one to intergenerational. It moves from having to transmitting. You stop asking for a promise and start living as a confirmation of it. This level no longer revolves around your name. It revolves around a legacy. You pray less for miracles and more for alignment across generations. You seek less visibility and more continuity. The fortune promised is no longer just your inheritance. It's your charge. And here's the secret most ignore. God doesn't transfer wealth to those seeking applause. He transfers to those with purpose. Faith of legacy is silent, stable, enduring. You build like Noah, obeying specific measurements even when you don't see rain. You leave something that lasts, even after your name is forgotten. This faith no longer seeks quick answers. It operates under the logic of eternity. You plant trees whose shade you may never see, but you plant them anyway. The power to acquire wealth here isn't skill. It's divine authorization. You become the steward of resources that are not yours. They belong to the kingdom. You don't flaunt. You direct. You don't display. You multiply. You don't consume. You build systems. Faith of legacy is the faith that receives to serve. It's where God finds rest, knowing He can trust wealth without risk. You no longer move for need. You move for covenant. The inheritance is real, but only remains with those who can carry the weight of the promise. Now that you've seen the 7 levels of faith, let me tell you clearly. The problem was never the promise. It was your readiness. You pray asking for wealth, doors, abundance, but you're operating on level 1, survival, crying, dependence. God doesn't miss the address. He doesn't forget promises, but He also doesn't release fortunes to those who done to know what to do with them. The inheritance exists, but it weighs. It requires identity. It requires emotional capacity. It requires mental governance. It requires long-term vision. You may have faith, but if your faith hasn't evolved, you'll stay spiritually poor, mentally shallow, financially limited. Because in the kingdom, Faith isn't just about believing, it's about sustaining. How many do you know who received quickly and lost it all? They were promoted, but fell. They were given visibility, order, but corrupted. Fortune without structure destroys you. That's why God hides promises inside processes. He gives visions and then stays silent. He gives seeds and watches. He tests your motivations. He refines your desires, because the promise is divine, but the sustaining is yours. The question is no longer, will God bless me? The question is, am I ready to be entrusted with what I'm asking for? You want wealth, then prove you won't be a slave to it. You want power, then prove you govern yourself. You want multiplication, then honor the little with excellence. You want legacy, then live with eternal awareness, not an immediate mindset. You need to do this self-analysis with brutal honesty. Which level has my faith stopped at? Which step do I refuse to take? Which renunciation do I not want to make? Which silence made me give up? Which obedience am I still rationalizing? Because no more pretending. God doesn't promote facades. He responds to essence. If you want to step into the inheritance of those who govern, you need to die to the faith of those who beg. This is the transition. This is the real change of level. And if you've made it this far, it wasn't by accident. You're hearing this because something inside you was called, because the promise remains intact. But now, it depends on you. Don't pray for magic. Climb the steps, and never settle for a faith of crumbs. You were born to build systems, carry legacies, sustain riches, and transfer covenant. Fortune is just a reflection.